Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa mawalah wa ba'd. Welcome back to another segment of Ramadan Revival. Today just something quick, and it is a reminder to myself and to everybody else concerning going back to basics. When we look around at the condition of the Muslims, the state of affairs that we are in, and I'm talking about the average person. I'm not talking now on a governmental level or anything of that sort. I'm talking about us on an everyday basis. We find that there's a lot of focus, or there's a lot of talk about education. And by all means, education is extremely important, and education is something that we promote and we encourage at all times. As a matter of fact, anyone who knows the first thing about Islam knows that it is a religion based on knowledge. And the Prophet ﷺ made it abundantly clear when he said, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ وَاجِبٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ, that seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. And when the scholars speak of seeking knowledge, they talk about different types of knowledge. They talk about knowledge of the religion, that is religious knowledge, and they also speak of worldly knowledge. Now, as far as worldly knowledge is concerned, then there are certain fields, there are certain sciences which are necessities. And therefore the ulama, or the scholars, when they looked at knowledge in general, they classified it as fardu ayn, knowledge which is fardu ayn, and fardu kifaya. So knowledge which is fardu ayn means that this is knowledge that is absolutely required by each and every individual. And fardu kifaya, this is now when we speak of communal knowledge. So knowledge which is fardu kifaya, it is necessary that we have within our communities those who possess this knowledge. And if they do not, then all of us bear the consequences, and all of us are considered to be sinners because we don't have within ourselves those who have attained the knowledge for those specific fields. Worldly knowledge I don't need to talk about, because if we look at our state of affairs today, then there is a lot of emphasis on it. And so we have, leave alone graduates from universities, but we have PhDs coming out our ears. We have just so many of them. Alhamdulillah, this is a good sign that we have within our ummah people who are professionals, whatever profession that may be in. But where we are lacking big time is on the front of Islamic knowledge. Although many people will say, but look at today, we have all of these Islamic conferences happening, we have all of these different courses being offered here and there, but we see that in reality we are living in great ignorance. As for those conferences, with all due respect, there is some benefit from them, but for the most part they have become opportunities for people to come, get together, have a good time, be entertained, and even the speakers for the most part have to find something to keep the audience awake with, meaning that they have to inject jokes and so on and so forth. So learning the Deen has to now be something which is entertaining, and that is in and of itself disturbing. I'm not saying that we're not allowed to joke. I like a good joke just like the next guy. But there's a time and there's a place. While we're doing Islamic knowledge, or while we're learning Islamic knowledge, also there's no harm in throwing in a little bit of humor here or there. But when the humor is what we go for, and everything else is sort of by the way, and then we don't speak about anything substantial, it's all very general, we see what the state of affairs is. We're in a mess. We are in an absolute mess. And then when Islamic knowledge becomes a business, then if you can't afford it, you can't learn. And those who can afford it, then we see that they become like, I don't know, they almost like cults. And this is another sad reality that we see in front of us. In any event, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ وَاجِبٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ. seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim, and we as Muslims must absolutely have the basic knowledge we need in order to conduct ourselves and live our lives as Muslims. And so we need to ask ourselves. We need to be very frank and very honest with ourselves. You don't have to answer to me or anybody else. You look at yourself and ask yourself, when it comes to the basics of my deen, how much do I really know? The basics everybody has to know. Start from something as simple as at-tahara. Do we really understand what tahara is? How many of our youth can we actually go to and say, listen, what is the difference between major and minor ritual impurity? What is the difference between al-hadath al-asghar and al-hadath al-akbar? What is the difference between hadath and khabath? How many know? Whereas these are bare minimums that every Muslim has to be aware of. I asked about the youth. What about many of us who are married and have children and so on? Many of us may not know these basics. As a matter of fact, I came to that rude awakening one time when I was speaking in a gathering, and I wasn't certain what to speak of, and I decided, you know what, let's speak about things such as tahara. You know, who says that everybody knows it? It just came to mind, and I started speaking. And sure enough, after some lectures, an individual came to me, and he's married and has children, and you know, he was already at that time, I think, in his late 40s, if I'm not mistaken. In any event, the question that he asked me floored me, and it was, what was he to do about previous years? Because he didn't know when he had intimate relations with his wife, that is, he had intercourse with her, he didn't know that he had to take ghusl, take a bath before praying. And mashallah, he used to pray. And the same individual also had the question of, you know, what do I do with those previous prayers? I used to pray Salat al-Fajr before the time came in because I was busy and I had to get to work on time. All right, so this tells you that we have a problem. And even with all of these new courses that are being offered and for all kinds of money, if we look at our state of affairs, still we have a long way to go. Okay, so you and I have to make it a point that we learn the basics. We want to learn all of these, intricate details of in tafsir of the Quran and so on. Yeah, but the Quran also talks about at-tahara. Why don't we learn the basics first, and then inshallah ta'ala we can build on that? So we need to start with some sort of a foundation. Let this Ramadan be one of those times. Let this Ramadan be one of those times that you actually now start opening books. Don't just go through lectures to see something which sounds exciting and fun and interesting. No, look for something that you and I need. How much do I know my salah? How much do I know about zakah? How much do I know even about siyam, the ahkam? Let's learn the basic rules and regulations so that when we are worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are worshipping Him upon bayyina, upon knowledge, upon insight, upon proper understanding, and there is clarity in what we are doing. When you understand what you are doing, you appreciate it more. When you understand what you are doing, you can perfect it and you can earn greater rewards with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So my reminder today is al-ilm, al-ilm. Let us go back and really learn our deen, learn it from the proper sources, learn it from the proper people as well. Wallahu a'lam, wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.